Singer David has been identified as a suspect in connection with the death of a 15-year-old Celeste Rivas, according to a LAPD source with direct knowledge of the investigation.
We start with new developments in the case of 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez, whose body was found in the front trunk of singer David's impounded Tesla in September.
David was officially identified as a suspect in the teen's death this week.
Back on Tuesday, a source was able to confirm to KTLA that singer David is being named as a suspect, as you mentioned. The body of the Lake Elsinore teen was found September 8th in the front trunk of David's Tesla, impounded at a Hollywood tow yard. David was on tour at the time, but police now believe Hernandez was killed last spring. The medical examiner reported she had been dead for an extended period of time.
You shot straight, but you shot late. Hi, Lem. This is the Rundown Podcast.
I'm gonna give you the rundown.
Just yesterday, the case was updated in the medical examiner's website. The cause of death had been listed as deferred for weeks, but now there is no information listed, which means there could be a security hold on the case. Late today, TMZ reporting that Rivas's body may have been frozen, and that could make it difficult or nearly impossible to determine the cause of death. Our request to the medical examiner's office for more information hasn't been answered yet.
The Lake Elsinore girl's decomposed body was found September 8th in the front trunk of a Tesla impounded at a Los Angeles tow yard. The car was impounded after someone reported it was abandoned in the Hollywood Hills, where neighbors say it had been parked for more than a month. The LAPD source with direct knowledge of the investigation told NBC4 Investigates that the Houston artist has not been cooperative in the investigation. Police tell NBC4 Investigates that Celeste's death likely occurred in the spring and that David likely had help dismembering and disposing of the body. Celeste, who disappeared in the Lake Elsinore area last year, was identified through forensics. The medical examiner is still working to determine a cause of death. She was last seen April 5th, 2024, in the Western Riverside community, and details about the circumstances surrounding her disappearance were not immediately available. Her decomposed body was found September 8th after workers at Hollywood Tow reported a strong odor coming from the Tesla registered to the singer David. Officers opened the front trunk, also known as a frunk, and found the remains in the bag, police said. Law enforcement told the NBC News that the remains were not intact.
This case is taking lots of twists and turns. Let's walk you through the timeline. Back in April of 2024, Celeste Rivas Hernandez was reported missing from Lake Elsinore. In the spring of this year, David takes a trip to Santa Barbara. That trip is now being investigated. On September 8th, Celeste Rivas Hernandez's body was found inside a Tesla belonging to David in a South LA tow yard. 2 months later, on November 18th, David was named a suspect in the case. And last Friday, a security hold was placed on the case at the request of the LAPD. That means no medical examiner records, including the teen's cause of death, can be released until the court order is lifted.
The Romantic Homicide Singers World Tour, which began August 5th, was in Minneapolis at the time of the body's discovery, with a stop in Kansas City the next day. The Tesla was impounded after someone reported it was abandoned in the Hollywood Hills, where neighbors say it had been parked for more than a month there. And the LAPD has treated this case as a death investigation. David's tour, which included a scheduled show in Los Angeles at the Greek Theater, was later canceled.
The body of a teenage girl found in a Tesla registered to singer David. We told you yesterday he's now being considered a suspect in her death. This story just keeps getting stranger.
It does. And this has been going on now for weeks. And for a while, we weren't hearing from police in this. And now we are. 2 months since Celeste Rivas's body was found in the trunk of that Tesla. And today, sources are telling us that David is among suspects who they're looking at and that nobody has been excluded. While the medical examiner has not yet determined the cause of her death, the body was dismembered, we now know. And based on what they have learned in the case, they believe that David did play a role in her death and got help from others in trying to dispose of her body in this Tesla that you're seeing here in the tow yard. One source saying they're focusing in on certain individuals, and those individuals are concerned now that they know that the LAPD is focusing in on them. David is not cooperating, we're told, has not cooperated from the beginning, but guys, we're told investigators have a lot of work left to do. There is no hurry. They say that they're being methodical in this, but they've got a lot of work left to do.
Celeste's brother told NBC LA earlier this year that family members who still live in Lake Elsinore were aware that the girl knew David. Matthew Rivas said when his sister disappeared, she was on her way to see a movie with him, but never returned. And he's talking about David. David, whose real name is David Burke, is a singer/songwriter who rose to fame with viral hits on TikTok, where he has 3.6 million followers. That success led to signings with Darkroom and Interscope Records. Darkroom, huh? Born in Queens, New York, Burke moved to Texas in his early teens and gained a following on YouTube, playing Fortnite and other online games. He started creating original music, some of went viral on TikTok. He released his debut album, Withered, in April and embarked on a world tour. In an interview on the Zach Sang Show, David said that 4 substituted for the A in his name was for search engine optimization and a representation of 4 cinematic universes with various characters that he was creating. Wow. The terrifying, treacherous tragedy that took place with 15-year-old Celeste Rivas, a runaway who body had been found dismembered allegedly and partially frozen, as according to TMZ and other reports. Her body was discovered in the trunk of her boyfriend's car in his Tesla. And he was out on a music tour at the time. And this singer, David, who happened to be allegedly dating this 15-year-old Celeste Rivas before she was found deceased in his vehicle. Right? He never was named a suspect until as of recently. Never was arrested, never was charged, still to this day. And they're saying now he's a suspect, but still no charges have been brought against the singer David. And as of recent, the court order initiated by the Los Angeles Police Department requested a security hold be placed on the findings from the LA medical examiner. Wow. Now, why would they do that?
All right, so if David is a suspect right now, can police arrest him, and do they know what the motive might be?
He is a suspect in the eyes of investigators at this point, but not officially under the law, because they don't have the probable cause to make the arrest just yet. What they really need is that cause of death from the medical examiner, and they don't have that. The condition of the body was so badly deteriorated, this is taking some time. But I was told by an investigator this morning they expect to get that pretty quickly, and then things are going to get moving very quickly.
Okay, so any idea on that timeline quickly? I mean, do they give you any idea if they're narrowing in on these suspects but still waiting on the medical examiner? What does that possibly
Told it won't
look
be
like?
immediate, but we may be coming toward an end to this within the next days to weeks, sometime relatively soon. And it really does come back to waiting for the cause of death. But told not immediate, but they feel like they're going in the right direction.
And again, your sources have told you that the body was dismembered, and that involved more than one person. And is that the reason that there are several suspects here?
Yeah, so they're trying to narrow down what were the roles in this. And then there's the question, was it murder, or could it have been something like an overdose, and then this was improperly disposing of the body afterwards, where they freaked out, and then they didn't know what to do with it. They've got to figure that out. A lot of that will be what was in her body. What does the medical examiner decide? But the belief is that there were multiple people involved in this.
Chief Medical Examiner O'Day Ugpo said that the department previously denied a LAPD request for a security hold on September 15 due to insufficient justification. He added they have not been proven to improve outcomes in the legal system. No records or details associated with the case, including the cause or manner of death and medical examiner report, can be released or posted on the website until further notice, the statement read. UGPO referenced the public's interest in Rivas Hernandez's death and said that the department remains committed to transparency when possible. And information will be made available once the court order is lifted, he added. Now, it says that Rivas Hernandez, and I don't understand why they starting off with Rivas instead of Celeste Rivas Hernandez. I mean, does she got two last names, or is one of them a first name or a middle name? But they're not saying Celeste, they're saying Rivas Hernandez was laid to rest by her family last month in California after police discovered her body in a Tesla that belonged to Burke. Music artist David, whose legal name is David Anthony Burke, is considered a suspect in relation to Rivas Hernandez's death, according to NBC Los Angeles. See, once again, they're saying the Rivas Hernandez. You know, they're not saying Celeste Rivas Hernandez. So I find that kind of strange. And remember, I said that the medical examiner said they haven't determined the cause of death. So right here they say that, citing a law enforcement source, TMZ reported Rivas Hernandez's death is being viewed as a homicide, though a cause of death has yet to be determined by the medical examiner. So basically they're saying that we know that this was foul play because of the alleged dismembering of the body. All right. But they're also saying we don't know exactly how she died before they dismembered her body and tried to dispose of it. David made it to a little bit over 2 months of not being named a suspect. And you know, everybody was on the internet with the rumors and, you know, with the gossip of David being a suspect because it was his car, right? He was allegedly dating this underage girl, this 15-year-old girl that he met online, and some say it was through Discord and chatting service, online chatting service there, where they say David met a lot of those girls, allegedly. And Celeste Rivas Hernandez was one of them. And she was a runaway and had problems. David allegedly preyed on her. He knew she was underage, and the rumor about her being pregnant, you know, that came from out of nowhere, and people started running with that narrative until it was shot down. That proved to be false information out there, that she was not pregnant by David. But, you know, it seemed, you know, for a good narrative to add to the story, right? But it was only one problem with that. It wasn't a fact. And the facts came out that that was not true. She was not pregnant with David's baby when her body was found. Now, many events have taken place in the investigation of the death of 15-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez, and if David is responsible or not. Many things have came out and many things have been alleged, right? Many things came into question, especially the one about Celeste Rivas's body found in a frozen state and the cause of death may never be determined. This was put out by TMZ, right? And according to them, in this article, it stated this: Celeste Rivas's body had been frozen, and as a result, it looks like the LA County Medical Examiner will not be able to establish the cause of death. Sources directly connected to the investigation tell TMZ. According to those sources, the medical examiner received the body in horrendous condition. It was decapitated, and while the torso was intact, the limbs had been removed and cut into multiple pieces. Wow, viewer discretion is advised. We're told that all of the body parts were partially frozen and had apparently been thawing out while sitting in the trunk of David's Tesla. Remember, David's vehicle had not been moved for several days when it was parked on a Hollywood Hills street near his rental home, which resulted in it getting towed and then the body being found after that. As TMZ reported, Celeste's body was such in bad shape. Initially, investigators did not know if it was a male or a female. When the body was received by the ME's office, the initial determination was this was a victim of an apparent homicide. But our sources say the ME is now having trouble establishing an official manner or cause of death, and it will most likely be undetermined. Other sources connected to the investigation tell TMZ the LAPD's robbery homicide division is viewing Celeste's death as a homicide, and even if the official cause of death is undetermined, authorities can move forward with an arrest. Wowzers. Yikes. Beware, David. David, I believe that's your cue, bucko, to go to a place where you can't be extradited back to the U.S. Yikes. Mark Garagos appeared on the most recent Two Angry Men podcast and said he knows the name of the second suspect, you guys. And authorities have told him this person might have been involved before, during, and after Celeste's death.
The LAPD Robbery Homicide Unit is viewing the death of Celeste Rivas as a homicide, and David is a suspect. And he is a
David is not the only suspect.
And David is not the only suspect. But what I am told is that at least one other suspect, it's not necessarily in connection to the murder, it's in connection to dismembering the body.
Now there are reports of a second suspect being named. That information coming from attorney Mark Garagos, who is not connected to the case but says he's talked to people close to the investigation and they've told him this person could be involved before, during, and after her death.
I think what law enforcement is focusing on right now is they're trying to determine locations, and they have reverse engineered. They obviously know when they found the car. They obviously know when they discovered the remains. They now are reverse engineering the movements of all those who were involved, and they've done it in a very sophisticated way.
TMZ also broke the story. A critical part of the case involves a trip investigators say David took to a remote area of Santa Barbara County in the middle of the night back in the spring, where he spent 2 hours there. What was David doing out there in Santa Barbara County in the middle of the night, you guys? Was he tampering with evidence? Was he trying to get rid of evidence? Was he out there with the body of Celeste? Yikes. Wowzers.
And I think this all has to do with a mysterious trip to Santa Barbara in the middle of the night last spring.
What you were saying is 100% that he took a trip to Santa Barbara County. But they now also, and you may have reported this, I'm not in the weeds on the TMZ feed, but they've got his social media and have tied up social media with some of the trips, and they've got cell phone records that they have poured over, and they have triangulated this to the point where it's eerie. I saw this 10 years ago on another murder case that I had, but it's eerie. I saw this 10 years ago on another murder case that I had, but when it was in the infancy stages, they've got a chart at LAPD that you would not believe. They've got this thing down to a timeline that's almost by the minutes, triangulated to the location, if you can believe that. And it's not just one source. When I say triangulated, it's media, social media, cell phone, Tesla, other, and all I'll say is other kind of GPS tracking devices, if you will.
Garagos and Harvey Levin of TMZ both confirming independently that investigators are looking closely at a trip that David took to a remote area of Santa Barbara County in the middle of the night last spring. At this point, one former LAPD detective we've spoken with says David is likely under surveillance, and all of these developments could mean an arrest is coming soon. Attorney Allison Treasel saying investigators are likely taking their time and being extra careful since this case is so high profile. As of now, there have still been no charges and no arrests in this case.
And also, what they didn't tell us, did David drive that black Tesla that she was found in out there to Santa Barbara County? Did he, huh? Because see, that right there would be very, very damning as well. Transported that body off in the car, allegedly. If Celeste's body was taken to that area, Like I said, what did he drive? Months before it was discovered in LA, it seems the operating theory is that the body parts were put in some sort of freezer for a long time before it ended up in David's Tesla in late summer. Wow. That's horrendous, you guys. Now, the part, that's a big contradiction is that the source that's connected to the LA County Medical Examiner that told TMZ about this inside information, allegedly, that it says Celeste's body was partially frozen when it was discovered inside a car registered to singer David, that Tesla. This is in square contradiction to what LAPD is saying on the record. LAPD is saying, look, her body was not found in a partially frozen state at all, okay? And they're saying that she was not decapitated either. So what's really going on, you guys? Now the police flip-flopping and flopping and flipping. Where is TMZ getting this information from? But, they're saying the LA County Medical Examiner, the source told them that, okay? And this is coming from the medical examiner. But LAPD is saying, look, no. This body was not found in a frozen or partially frozen manner.
The LAPD now releasing new details in Celeste Rivas Hernandez's death investigation. Police also saying today that reports of the teen's body being found frozen and decapitated are not true.
Wowzers. And the head was attached. It wasn't decapitated. So they said they couldn't tell if this was a male or female. That right there would contradict that as well. So this is very, very suspicious, you guys. So with a very big contradiction and conflict of interest in this case with the information that is being put out, you have TMZ putting out articles like the house that David rented had freezers and the cops focus on storage of Celeste Rivas' body, okay? So they're, making a big thing about this freezer, but then they say that the body, wasn't found in a frozen or partially frozen state, and it wasn't decapitated, okay? So was the limbs on? They said that the limbs wasn't on. Said that they couldn't tell if it was male or female, just a torso, right? Limbs missing, head missing. Man, what's really going on, man? This right here is crazy, you guys. This is very, very awkward that they're putting out all this conflicting misinformation. They even went as far as digging up old video where David was at a different location and they zoomed in on an appliance in a box in the background while David was dancing, making a TikTok, right? And people spotted this and said, oh, that's a deep freezer. That right there, busted, you guys. Well, the problem with that, this was not the property. He was obviously at somebody else's property. It seems as if the law enforcement, as everybody is saying, they're not trying to, actually arrest David until they get, enough information to slam dunk him in the court of law one day. But at this moment, he's still a free man, but he remains a suspect in their eyes, but, just very suspicious as a suspect, right? Because it's his car. I mean, he used to talk to this underage female who came up dead in his vehicle in a bag, allegedly dismembered, but not frozen, like we were told. Now, the private investigator who was hired by the owner of the house that David was staying in that got raided, right, and all that evidence was taken out of there, Malden, the owner, had hired this private investigator, Steve Fisher, okay? And he was hired to look into Celeste's death, and he says his PI is still very early on in the investigation, but of course this was early in the reports, and he had a lot to share since then as he went on with Jesse Werber on Law and Crime to, give a whole lot of information on what was actually found in his investigation.
When I first started looking at this case, I'm very much an Occam's razor type of person where I think things are a lot easier than people try to make them sometimes, especially online, into these big things. And I thought this was going to be a tragic overdose, which it very well still could be. And they made a bad decision because they didn't want to expose a potential relationship and put her in this Tesla. And then maybe he thought he could get somebody to get rid of that car. And they were just like, no, I'm not doing it. And just got left there. But I will say this, there are some things that, and I'm talking physical evidence that was at that house that is, there could have been greater plans as far as getting rid of her. And it's scary, sadistic stuff. And that's why we're trying to learn more about that. I wish I could say more, but for obvious reasons I can't. But it doesn't have to do with how she died, but maybe how they were planning on ultimately getting rid of her, and how maybe that Tesla was just a holding spot at the time, and things just, their timing was just off as far as getting this done. But there's a few things that were just like, will blow your mind.
Has anyone from David's team, management, legal, anybody reached out to you or your client?
I know that my client's been in touch with his manager, but only for the purpose of the lease, because they did ask to terminate the lease. And I believe the other manager that technically was the owner of the red Tesla, I think was in touch with him because they needed access to the house to get that vehicle and stuff out. Because that's another thing that they could be key in this, is that there's only one key to that house, and who had that and who had access to it and who was in it. Because we also have evidence that while David was on tour at the time between the Tesla being found and the search warrant being served, David was on tour, but somebody was in that house. And there was actually a report made, not with police, but that homeowner association has a robust private security company, and we've gotten videos from them and reports. And so who had that key is probably the same person that, had access to the Tesla.
Do you know who that person is, and do you believe that is the person that moved the Tesla?
So I definitely know who moved that Tesla on that late July before they went on tour. I can't say who the person, and I can't say but I don't know who exactly was in the house, because it's just a report, but there's video, but you can't make a person out. But somebody was in the house, and being that there's only one key, it's like, okay, who had access at that time? So is it the same person that moved the Tesla? Was another last part of the plan about to go in motion as far as getting rid of her body? I don't know.
Now, when Steve Fisher, talked to Jesse Weber, he did confirm that they looked over the surveillance footage, but the person who was in the house, right, who could have possibly moved that Tesla, all right, could have possibly put Celeste Rivas in that Tesla. But there's just one problem with the surveillance footage. Obviously, Steve Fisher, the private investigator who watched this surveillance footage that, could tell if Celeste had been to this residence where David stayed, he couldn't verify it, you guys. He could not verify this individual who was in the house, which only one key was, provided, according to the PI. The private investigator says the house only had one key, and somebody was there while David was out on tour. Who was this person? And why couldn't the private investigator, right, tell who this person was with the surveillance footage? That's suspicious, you guys. And just something about that just doesn't sound right.
Some major developments in the Celeste Rivas death. TMZ has learned that her body had been frozen, and when it was found, it was still partially frozen in the back of David's car, and it was in such bad condition that we are told the medical examiner may never be able to establish the cause of death.
It had been decapitated, the torso was intact, the limbs had been removed, and they were cut up severely. The body was partially frozen in the trunk.
The LAPD now releasing new details in Celeste Rivas Hernandez's death investigation. Police also saying today that reports of the teen's body being found frozen and decapitated are not true. Police also saying today that reports of the teen's body being found frozen and decapitated are not true.
Celeste, girl with my name tattooed on her chest. I'm obsessed. Oh, Celeste.
You're watching the Rundown Podcast. I appreciate everybody for spinning with me. I appreciate all my subscribers for sliding with your boy every time. And say, man, hey, man, keep hitting that like button, keep hitting that subscribe button, and look, turn on post notification so we can slide whenever I get the drop. You already know what it is, man. It's deep in the Buddha her, you hear me? And guess what? I'm gone.